taking, this is our time. Just breathe, this will be a hard fight. The truth cash out in the night.
All right. Hey,
What's
how is
up?
everybody? How you doing, Johnny?
I am at 5 bars of 5G, so I'm good to go.
Nice. So where you at,
Just in
Sonic?
time. This is exactly what Joe Rogan does. He drives around town looking for a cell phone signal.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, man. We make things happen. That's the bottom
Yes,
line. We
sir.
make things happen.
Make it happen. Just
That's
like
right.
you doing the podcast where you're having to listen to yourself through another phone as you're doing the other thing with the other thing.
Dude.
I was impressed when you told me that story.
Dude, it was the worst night ever. Like I said, the people in the chat room don't realize it, and the guests didn't realize it. I could hear nothing. I literally could hear nothing. So I had to pull it up on my phone, listen to the show on the phone, and mute me here. And then when I had to say something, mute this, unmute that, and then talk because I can hear myself talking on. It was just unbelievable, man. I was going back and forth. I had a huge headache when it was all said and done. Huge headache.
Well, it turned out.
Yeah, we got through it.
Yeah,
so
that's the important part.
Oh yeah. So what's new? What's going on? How's
Same old, man.
How's Mama Bear?
Mama Bear's doing good. Baby Bear is apparently just a little bit bigger than a pear, so she's kicking, ready to go. So we're looking forward to that.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You're tougher than I am. I couldn't imagine doing that at my age.
I know people. I've got a really good friend that he did not have children himself, and he is. I think he's just a little over. He might be right at 60, but he wound up having to adopt his grandkids, and they are little, very, very young. Like one is 2, and the other one is like 4. So anytime I think about how old I am, starting with a baby, I think about him, and I'm like, yeah, I'll be all right.
No, I couldn't do it.
What's going on, Blue Eye Northern?
Yeah, we got a lot of people. Sharon's in there. Lenny, our Lenny's in there. Hey,
Mr. Athos.
Yep. Hey, Lenny, just as a reminder, I do have your shirt. You're gonna get it in 2 weeks. So,
speaking of which,
yeah.
Did you get shirts from the same lady that you got the
banners?
Yes. And you got your shirts and they're high quality. I just want to say, what is it? What's the name of her company? Sebring
Signs.
Sebring Signs. The price, I've been through a couple different processes of trying to get shirts, even making them myself. And to be able to call someone, give them a design, and then the shirt be $20. Yeah. I haven't found too many people or too many ways to get that accomplished. And like the shirt that I designed, it's got stuff on the front and the back. It's kind of complicated. It's not just a real simple design. For $20, you can't beat that. So if you're looking to have your, maybe I'll go back whenever this is up online and put a link in the description. Maybe get her some more business because, I talked to her personally and, professionally. I'm very, very satisfied with.
She's a very nice person, very good to work with. Like I said, the guy I used to have, quality work, but you never knew when he was going to get around to doing it. And she was quick. Matter of fact, like when we got the banners, she said, she goes, I can mail it out. You're in Georgia. She's in the same town I am, and we got ours on the same day.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. So
I remember you called. I think you just called her or something to find out when I was going to get mine, as I'm going to get mine from the mail.
Right. Yeah.
So
it was pretty impressive. She's a really sweetheart. I got some things in the future I want to get done with her. But and I brought it up on one of the past podcasts because I had shown the T-shirt and stuff like that, and there were people like, "Oh, I'd love to get one. I'll buy one." Yeah, they're great price. Just for me, I don't want inventory for one. And if it's you either going to pay what I pay, and there's no money made. I don't make any profit, or
Right.
I just give it away because even at 17, like I had when it was the first batch I got, all came out to be because I bought 10 of them. They were 17.50. Well, it cost me almost $10 to mail them out to different people
Yeah.
that wanted a shirt. So now that shirt now costs me $27. So how am I going to make a profit off a $27 T-shirt? See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I
that's the
can't.
same thing. I did the whole thing where you get them, you sign up, you get an account, and you design the shirts, and they do all the packing. They make the shirts, they pack them, they send them out, and all that. And it's just so
Yep.
expensive that it's just not, it's just not even worth it, for just a
Yeah.
handful of people. And like we had the Sasquatch Encounter Brigade, Captain Joe got us the True Timber. He knew the guys that were involved in that, the CEOs and everything. We got sponsorship, and we could get shirts from them, but we would have had to have gotten a minimum of like 50 shirts, and you have no idea how
Yeah.
many of what size and all that. So
Yeah,
it's
it's a nightmare. It's a
yeah,
nightmare. So so I what I did was because you can't just you can, but I didn't feel right ordering one shirt or two shirt or whatever because I
right,
wanted to come up with something new this year for the conference and everything to wear at the conference. I was going to get two, one me and one you. See what I'm saying? But then she said, "Look," she goes, "it's going to cost me shipping and handling, but if you order 10," she goes, "I don't have to pay shipping and handling." I said, "Oh, okay, I'll help you out." So I bought 10. So now I had to find 10 people. You know what I
oh,
mean? So that's when I started calling around and said, "Hey, you want a shirt? Hey, you want a shirt? Hey, you want a
yeah,
shirt?" And of course, I can't get to everybody, of course. So
right,
then what happened was I ordered the shirts. Well, then some people that were already knew they were getting shirts, I had left somebody out, and they're like,
oh,
"Oh, you forgot about so and so," and I'm like, "Oh." So now I got to order more shirts.
yeah,
So now she said, "Well, I've got an order, so I only need to get if you can order 6, we'll have a complete order." Say, "Hey, you want a shirt? You want a shirt? You want a shirt?" So I'm back at it again. So total, I bought 16 shirts that I'm
yeah,
giving away. I'd love for everybody to have one, but I just can't do it. But I'm excited about the shirts. I have them. They're in the car. Tomorrow, matter of fact, I'm meeting up with Marie DeMont and her group. They're doing a 2-day camp out open to subscribers and people like that want to come out. They pay to come out and stuff. I think it's like $25 or something like. It's very cheap. And so I contacted her today and said that I'm probably going to drive out there. I'm not going to camp. I'm just going to do a day trip. Go out there, get there probably 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, stay until about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then drive back because it's a 2-hour drive for me.
yeah.
So I will be able to unload most of my shirts tomorrow. So, there's a
Well,
lot
good to
of
go.
the people that are there are that were on my list. So we're
Right.
good. We're good. All right, so tonight we got a great guest, man. We've got John Day, and I've got an opportunity to sit and talk to him. He's a great guy. He's just one of those people that you talk to and you feel like you're talking to an old friend that you've known for 20, 30 years. I mean, he's just all around just a really nice guy. You can't help but love the Cajun accent, just he's a good old boy. He's just a great guy. He's had his encounters and stuff like that. He considers himself an amateur researcher, but aren't we all? So,
Oh yeah.
so I'm going to bring him on, and everybody give him a warm applause and say hi to John. Hey, John.
Hey, everybody.
John, how you doing, buddy?
All right. Nice to meet you, Johnny. Too
Yeah,
bad
nice to meet you too.
I already met Richard has quite a few discussions.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been telling me about y'all's great conversations. He was excited about this one.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk
It's
about
always good to have another person from the South. You know, a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there looking into these creatures that don't even realize how many there are in the South. Like just loaded in every state in the South.
Yeah, I found that out. I thought it was only in the north,
Right.
but I came home and found after I got my first incident, I started seeing a lot of things going on down here. In fact, I seen one down on this end. I hadn't seen one on the other end in West Virginia, but heard a lot of things. Had a lot of things happen to me.
Well, we are just going to shut our mouths and you just go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, start from the beginning. What happened and what made you jump down this rabbit hole that we're all stuck in?
Well, to begin with, I wasn't really a believer in Bigfoot uh, until I think it was May 2016 in West Virginia. Now, I hunted a lot in West Virginia before I had an incident, which was blowing my mind, but it started answering strange things that happened up there that I didn't have answers for. Uh, it was in May 2016, and I was walking. The company I worked for gave us these little watches that would count your steps, and I was trying to make all my steps, and I was at my parents' house in West Virginia, so I walked up the road, and they got a place they call Five Right, because there's about 5 turns up in there, and I was headed back towards the house, and I heard it sounded like somebody just took a staff and just piled it into a stump, and they did that 4 times. So I kind of stopped and said, "What is that?" And I looked up towards the ridge, and it was dark. It was late in the evening. I'm on the dark side of the mountain, and I'm looking up on the ridge in a holler, and I'm going, "What's going on? What's that about?" I never heard that before. And like I said, I hunted there like 20 years. So I kept looking, and I couldn't see nothing. I watched the silhouettes on top of the ridge, couldn't see anything. So I started to walk again. So I made about maybe 5 or 6 steps, and then I hear it again 4 times. It's bam, 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 bam. I said, "What?" And I turned around and I looked, and I spent a lot more time trying to find it. Couldn't find nothing. So I said, "Well, I'm gonna just head on out." So I turned around, looked at the ground, make sure it's kind of dark, make sure I wouldn't step in a hot a hole or anything. And then I heard something coming across the treetops above me, and it happened, and it was traveling so fast I couldn't. I turned and couldn't turn fast enough to see what it was, but I could see all the limbs in the top of the tree moving. I said, "Wow!" I said, "That can't be a bear. I mean, it can't be a bird. I don't see no feathers. Something flying through there. There were left feathers." And I said, I'm heading out." It had to have been a rock or a stick. So I went on to my parents' house, and I told them about it, and they just kind of laughed. I said, "Well, what's funny?" He said, "Well, they have a guy that was up at that pond. It's on the same ridge. Now I'm at the bottom, and it's probably about 1,000 feet up, 1,500 feet up. Maybe not that much, probably close to 1,800. He was sleeping in a van up there, and he hears something drag his fingers across his van and hits his antenna. It wakes him up, and he's eye to eye with a Bigfoot, scared the living daylights out of him. I say, I wonder if that's related. But I didn't know about Knox. I didn't understand Knox, and I didn't understand that they threw stuff. So I started putting all that together. I started doing a lot of research, and I started watching Patrick Vaughn, and he's talking. And he was a tracker. He was tracking him, and all his stuff he says is inconclusive because he didn't see the Bigfoot make the footprint. But I started watching his stuff, and he said don't do no more than, well, I'm getting ahead of myself there. So I think it was 2000 July. Went back out there, and that was 2019. my dad was sick, and we had to make emergency run up there. And while I was visiting him in the hospital, I stayed the night so my mom could go home and sleep. And she heard something slap the house, and I'm going, and I heard about that doing my research. I said, well, that's strange. It's funny she said it like that. But anyways, we went out. My little nephew and me went out when I got back from the hospital the next night when everything was getting better. We went out and we did 4 knocks because I had heard 4 knocks, and we didn't get no replies or nothing. I said, well, I guess there ain't nothing to it. So we didn't pay much attention to it other than that house slap. So it was time for me to leave. So I told him, I said, look, if you get a chance, take the 4-wheeler and go up the mountain and look for X's or anything like unusual. So he went up and he found some stuff. He found 2 X's. No, he found 1 X. And he told me, Uncle John, he says, that looks like it was put there. I said, well, what makes you think that? He said, you don't think 2 trees could have fell across? He says, no. He said, there's no root balls. There's no stumps. I said, oh, okay. So we went back up in July, me, my wife, and my grandson, and that's during the time I listened to Patrick Vaughn, and he says, when you're out doing knocks, he said, only do 1 knock. He said, don't do 4 or more. He said, it could be considered aggressive. So I said, okay. So we all loaded up in the truck and went up there that night. Or no, we weren't in the truck. We were in our SUV, and we decided we were going to do 1 tree knock. And I had my grandson. He was little, but he wasn't scared. He wasn't scared of nothing. So he was in the front seat with me, and my wife was in the back seat with my nephew. And I backed up to the tree. So when I talk about West Virginia, most of the activity is at this place we call the Goldfish Pond, and it's up by Miracle Mountain, and it's a little 1/4 mile stretch on top of the ridge that goes to a log cabin my grandfather and were instrumental in building. But so we backed up by the pond, facing out in case we got to leave in a hurry. I wasn't taking no chances. So got out. I had a stick I had made just for that purpose, and I told my grandson, "Now you stay here," and he started crying. I said, "All right, get out." My wife said, "You sure you want to do that?" I said, "No, just let him get out, and we'll get back in the car if something happens." So I hit the tree, and as soon as I hit the tree, it was like it was 10 yards in the woods from us. It hit, bam! It was like bam, bam. I said, "Man, my eyes got real big." And I told him, "Get in the car." And I said, I gave the stick to my nephew. I said, "Go ahead and hit it. Just make sure there's no echo." And he hit it. We didn't get an echo or a reply. I said, "Let's go." So we jumped in the car and we took off, started down the mountain. So we had to go through a switchback, which means at the bottom, as you make that first 90 going down, you're going down pretty steep. Well, my little nephew gets brave. He said, "Oh, John," he said, "let me get out and do a knock right here." I said, "Okay, go ahead." So I said, "Get the stick," and I think it was in the back, because I think I tried to open the back, and he never made it to the back. He runs and jumps back into the car. I never opened the trunk. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Uncle John, something's running up there right above us." I said, "Well, let's go. We'll go to the house." And we took off and went all the way home, back to my parents' house. So that was, I guess, the second incident. So we decided to go back the next day we went up there, and I put a camera up. I wanted to put a camera up. And I put a camera up in the tree about 10 foot. And when we got down, we went on towards the log cabin, and then we were looking in the woods for X's and stuff. Well, so then we seen an X. My wife spotted it. I think it was by the gate to the log cabin. But it was a small X. And it was up on the bank of the road. You know how they got the bank in the mountain roads? You got to climb up to get above the road to the woods, because they cut it out. So I said, well, let's go up there and get a picture of that X. So he started up the bank ahead of me. It was a little like a deer trail on an angle, and I see the leaves kick up in front of him. And he said, Uncle John, something's throwing rocks. I said, what? And so I'm thinking, teenagers, he's messing with me. But I thought maybe he stepped on a stick and it was like on a lever, like on a rock or something, and threw the leaves up. So I just blew it off. So he went over there by the X. I took a picture of him, and I look out to the right. They got a big, humongous arch. And I mean, this tree looked like it was that big and round. And it was way out there and bent down. I said, man, that looks like one of the arches they're talking about. And I took a picture of it with him. While I was taking a picture, I had never experienced it and knew about it when I experienced it. I experienced it way back after I thought about it in the swamps in Louisiana on the Tacabal Game Reserve in the Chapalaya. But I felt a foot stomp and it vibrated. I felt it up through my body, and I said, let's go. Let's get out of here. So we went ahead and got down and left and went down the mountain. So we were brave enough to go back that night with headlights. So we went over there to the gate to the old log cabin, and we seen the small X, and he had a headlight and I had a headlight, and we started driving back. And I was looking out to the left up the bank. He was looking down the mountain, which are steep mountains. They're really steep mountains. So I seen a deer, and I didn't think much about it. I said, well, that's a deer. The colors are blue. But one thing we noticed that there were some saplings. They all were broken off at the same height. Now, what did that? I don't know, but it's kind of strange. They all were broken at the same height, and they were like 1 inch, maybe inch and a half in diameter. And I noticed that. And then when we got to the goldfish pond, I'm looking up and looking out to the left. I see a big old gold eye shine about 10 or 12 foot off the ground. And I freaked out. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like a pure gold, bright eyeball. And he seen, I didn't know at the time, I didn't ask him until later, but he said he seen both of them. So where I was, at the angle I was, he was in the back seat. I guess one eye was covered, so we took off and left. So so that was pretty much the beginning of a lot of my research. But I had a lot of things. It was during COVID in Louisiana. My wife was getting real, antsy, getting bored. She couldn't go out nowhere. So she said, let's go camping. I said, what? You want to go camping? Yeah. I said, let's go camping. You serious? Yeah. I said, well, we'll have to get a tent. So we bought a tent from somebody, and I had sleeping bags because I grew up in the houseboat in the spillway. I had pretty much everything I needed to go camping. So we went to Kastashi, right there, west of Alexandria, northwest of Alexandria, and I guess we went for 2 nights, I think it was. Well, the first night nothing really went on, but the second night I hear like a tree knock way out. So it's during COVID. Let me lay a little bit more groundwork. There was nobody at the campground. Nobody was camping, and we were all by ourselves. So, anyways, on the second night, I hear the tree knock. I think we had a whippoorwill flew through, which we're not used to hearing that in South Louisiana, but I didn't know they were in North Louisiana, but they're up there. So we went to bed the first night, no incident. The second night with the whippoorwill and the tree knock, we went to bed kind of early, and I think it was around 4 o'clock in the morning. I hear the bear trash can lid close. I didn't hear it open, so I'm thinking to myself, right before that, excuse me, I got ahead of myself again. Right before that, I heard something like a herd of coyotes chasing something, and they were cutting up something fierce. Then I hear a tree And I'm not talking about an old rotten tree. I'm talking about I hear a tree fall in the woods, and it was a big tree. It made a bunch of noise. And then the coyotes just shut down. They didn't make a peep after that. So then I'm laying there. I'm freaking out. And I hear the trash can lid fall, but I didn't hear no fumbling like if a bear was digging in that bear-proof trash can trying to get it open. I didn't hear nothing. All I heard was bam. I never seen no car lights. I never heard a car drive up. It was strange. So I had a 10 millimeter. I grabbed it and I put it on my chest. My wife was sleeping, snoring. She never woke up with all that racket. I'm going, oh, I'm not gonna wake her up. She's gonna freak out. So I was laying there, and pretty much where our tent was, there was no branches and no trees, and there may have been a little breeze, but something dragged either a stick or a finger over my head, and that really got me scared.
Say that over your head.
Yeah, over my head and the tent. I had like a little.
Oh, okay.
On the tent, you hear it zzz, right over our heads, and I never woke her up. And then finally, she had to wake up to use the bathroom, and she went to use the bathroom. I had to go out there with a light and wash her over. But she never heard any of that. I'm glad. I don't know what I'd have done if she would have hollered, and this thing would have maybe come after us. So I didn't think, I'm going, man, they in Louisiana, but that's all coincidental stuff, but you don't know for sure what it is. As far as I know, it could have been a dog man or old Bigfoot. I don't know. But all those things are strange, like the tree knocks I heard in West Virginia. You can't prove it till you see it, basically. But I felt pretty sure it wasn't somebody because I never heard a car drive up or car lights. So then she decided she wanted to go camping again. So I said, okay, let's go to Tunica Hills. So we go to Tunica Hills. So we over there camping out. And I think we went to bed maybe around 10 or something. I think around 1 o'clock in the morning or 12, I hear a raccoon cutting up something fierce. And all of a sudden I see it flying across our campground. And like something threw it almost. And what? So I get up, and she gets up, she has to use the bathroom again. So we walk out there, and I look, and the raccoon, he runs up a tree. So we go back to bed, and I'm falling off asleep, and I hear a tree knock, but I went ahead and went to sleep. So the next morning I get up, I said, man, I had a weird dream last night. She says, yeah, what? What did you dream about? I said, oh, I heard a tree knock. She said, what? She said, you heard it too? I said, oh my God. So I get out the tent and I start looking around and I find tree breaks. I said, I'll be darned. I bet you they must have something up here too. So I'm going, what happened in West Virginia, I didn't think was down here. So I started kind of hunting a little bit more. And I went on, she has some family property over there. And I went out there. They call it a 21. It's a 21. They call it 21, but it got its name from it's a 21-inch pipeline. It runs through her, and I'm in Pierreport now. It's still in Louisiana, like I said earlier. We're still in Louisiana, and I'm up. I found it on the 21-inch. They call it 21-inch canal. I was on the canal, and I found a ladder stand up against a tree. So let me go sit up there and hunt. And it was a little evening hunt. So I'm sitting up there, kind of looking around. It's getting late, pretty close to dark. So I'm looking down, maybe about 20, 30 yards down from me. I see a face. I'm going, oh, my eyes be playing tricks on me. But I said, nah, I just ignored it. So I'm getting down, fixing to leave. So I get down, I walk over there where I seen the face. I see all the grass and shrubs knocked down, laying down, and that's the way it looked. The face looked at me was sideways, like it was looking up at me, and laying on the ground looking at me in that ladder stand. So then I go over there, find the grass, and then I hear something walking like bipedal in the swamp. I go, oh, what's that? So then I look out into the swamp. I see a tall black stump. I said, that's unusual. I don't usually see tall black stumps. You usually see little short stumps, and this is in the swamp. So I'm pretty good with a rifle, raising up and putting my scope on stuff. So I raised my rifle up, and I look in between these trees in a certain area, and I put my rifle up. I don't see nothing. I said, what? So I dropped my rifle, and I'm looking at the same spot. I still don't see nothing. I said, wait a minute. This is weird. I even went back a few other times there, and I still try to find that black stump, and I ain't found that black stump yet. But I think whatever it was, dove behind a tree where I couldn't see it anymore. But that was so subtle. I just didn't want to believe what I seen, what I heard, and what I couldn't find. But I know people have some experiences that are more frightening. I never felt threatened. I never felt scared. Even after when I didn't see it with my rifle and all, I just didn't feel that like I was threatened. But there were some incidents that me and my wife had in the same property. Well, I'll go to this tree I found out there first and tell that story a little bit. They had a tree that was weed in between trees, and it was held off the ground about 2.5 foot, maybe 3 foot. And it had a root on it, but there was no dirt on it. So it was like an old tree that was weed in there. Like I said, well, that's kind of strange. So I took it, and this is all on the same property. I took it and pulled it off and set the root on the ground. So I went back a week later, and it was still down. And I went back the second week, it was back up. I said, okay. I put it back on the ground. So I went a week later, it was still on the ground. I went back 2 weeks later, it was back up. I go, oh, this is weird. I said, this is strange. So I said, third time, I'm gonna put it back on the ground. I went back, and I don't remember if it was the first week I went back or the second. It broke the root off. I'm going, well, that's strange. So me and my wife went out there, and this is a good little walk from the front of the family's property to the back. I think it's like 20 acres. Well, we walked back there, and on the way back, and I don't remember if this is when she found the aster. I don't think it was. But anyways, we walked about halfway to the property, but they got a ditch across before you get to the pipeline. And on the left, we were passing, and I heard a real faint whoop. And I asked her, did you hear that? She says, no, I didn't hear nothing. I said, okay. So we kept walking, going towards the pipeline, the 21-inch canal. And they had a tree break up there, I noticed, and it was fresh. But it was confusing because, and the reason I mentioned that it was fresh is because there were some trees that were cut down around there. But they were all the cuts were like the wood was old and stained. And this break was fresh. I'm saying, that's weird. So I heard a tree knock. And I said, did you hear that? She said, yeah, I heard the knock. I said, okay. So I knew I wasn't hearing things. So we went on to where that stand was I was talking to you about, that deer stand. And we walked down there because I started putting oranges out. And something was eating the oranges, but whatever was eating the oranges wasn't chewing them up. It was like peeling off one side and taking the meat out. So we were going back to check it and put fresh oranges out. So she kind of lagged behind me a little bit, and I was walking along the 21 on the other side. They had a land bridge across the canal. She heard and I heard together. It sounded like something. It wasn't. I didn't sound like an alligator. Like an alligator in the water in the lily pads would kind of go whoosh. It would like swing its tail and splash. It was more like something took a log and threw it into the water and it bounced in the water. So I said, "Did you hear that?" She said, "Yeah, I heard that." Well, right after that, there was a loud, high-pitched scream I had never heard. I've been hunting in the swamps a long time, and I looked at her and she looked at me and said, "Yeah, I heard that." And she heard it like it went screaming and it went way off in the distance. I said, "Well, I guess we'll go back." So we started heading back, but on the way out, I noticed by that tree stand, I found a tree break. It was about maybe an inch diameter tree, but the way it was broke was like something grabbed it right here and just did bam straight over. That's the way the breaks are. They're not weather related to be broken like that to me. So when we got to the place where I heard the whoop coming in, but she didn't hear it, I said, "Wait a minute." I said, I'm gonna climb up on this little levee by this pond, this crawfish pond, and I'm gonna try a whoop." So I didn't make a very loud whoop. I just kind of whoop, and then we heard two growls. They went rah, rah, wah. Then we heard branches breaking, and they started beating on the trees. And my wife looked at me and says, "We need to go." I said, "Look, if they wanted to kill us, they would already killed us. They don't want to kill us." But she got scared, and we ended up leaving anyways. But on the way out, and I remember when I told you about the tree root, and I went in there and found that it was broke. Well, one time I seen something way down, but I couldn't make it out. I found a box turtle in the trail, one box turtle, just right in the middle of the trail I walk down all the time. I go, "That's kind of strange, but I guess you're crossing right here." Well, that time there was two box turtles. There was two of us, and there was two box turtles. And I'm saying it's related to that, but I find it very coincidental. So I don't know what was going on there, but I found that things like that, coincidental and strange. Now, from that property at a later date, me and my grandson were in there, and we found a tree, and it didn't have a root system on top, but it was like something took a tree and drove. I'm talking about a tree about this big, drove it into the ground. Because I took it, it was real unusual, so I took pictures of it, and all the trees around there had the root ball at the bottom of the tree, and they captured that in the picture with my grandson standing there with a shotgun. That one went straight in the ground. There was nothing, like something just took a tree or top of a tree or a big branch or whatever and just drove it straight in the ground. And there was no limbs or nothing up above it. And they have a person that was living there that had a grandson. Had a son that stayed in the back of his house. He wouldn't sleep in that room anymore because he seen some red eyes in the window, and he had to move up to the front of the house to sleep.
Yeah,
He
that
wouldn't
would
sleep
stop
there
me
no
too.
more by the
That would
highway.
stop me.
So I think they're there. From
But
how they
the
there, they must have they're there pretty often. I think
you're talking about that how big around was the log?
the one that was suspended or the one jammed in the ground.
No, the one that was jammed in the ground.
That looked maybe 4 to 6 inches in that area.
Yeah. Well, when I was first, that's pretty much one of the signs that I found when I was first getting in, around my property. I found uh, three logs like that that were five, about 5 feet tall, um, probably about that big around, and there were three of them. And they were all shoved in the ground, and they were about 10 feet apart. So I have definitely seen that before. And trees fall in the woods, obviously, but sometimes things you know, just don't seem right. They just don't seem like they're natural. Sometimes
No.
it's hard to tell though.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've come across more than anything else too is sticks in the ground, and I found them as the size of a number two pencil, in a hole, like something was digging in a hole. Um, but the ones that I find that are really peculiar, they're only about the diameter of a broomstick, and they're usually about, I don't know, 3-4 feet long. They're not very tall, and they're shoved into the ground. and it's through really thick leaf cover, really thick, like 3 or 4 inches of leaf cover. Where I'm not a big guy, but I'm not a little guy. I'm 215 pounds now, and I stand on it and I try to put all my weight to push it through the leaf litter and into the ground, and I can't do it. I can't do it. So I can't see these things just falling out of a tree, going through the leaf litter, and then going probably about that deep into hard soil. You know what I mean? Something had to jam it down in there, really, something really strong.
Yeah. Another thing I found back there, and remind me to talk about the Godell, but they had a stack of sticks, maybe that big, and they weren't cut on the ends, but they were all the same length, and they were broken off, and they were stacked like to make a bed or something. And I said, hey, ain't nobody gonna do that. Nobody's gonna go out in the woods and break a bunch of branches. And part of the tree was laying on the ground. Look what they were breaking it off of. But they were all stacked nice and neat against the tree. I can't see anybody having that kind of energy to do that, but I can't understand why they would do that. But
Right.
Going back to the Godell, one night my wife wanted to go boat riding late in the evening. It's on the upper end of they call it Bay Nache, or some people Bay Natchez. We went up in there, and they had a place that's called Horseshoe Bayou, and we decided to go over there and kind of listen and see if we can see anything. So we pulled up in there, past maybe the second little cut off the Horseshoe Bayou. We kind of I shut the motor down. The water was high in the swamp. Sometime during the low period, that's probably ground, but it's full of palmettos. It's real thick. And we stopped the motor. We kind of sat there a little while and talked a little while. And I said, man, I'm going to do a knot. So I got my boat paddle out, and I had a stick, and I hit the boat paddle. Bam! And it was kind of quiet. And all of a sudden, my wife and I hear some noise coming from the back end of the boat, from the swamp. She said, what's that? She said, I hear bubbles. I said, you hear bubbles? What I heard, it sounded more like dripping off of arms or hair, whatever, appendages. And I knew it was, I didn't think it was deer because I never had deer come like that towards the boat. But anyways, it came towards the back of the boat, like behind us, and came all the way to the edge of the woods behind the palmettos where we couldn't see it, and started paralleling us until it got past us and went off into the woods. And that's not far from where somebody's seen a dog man. And then what made me pick that spot wasn't because of that. That happened later. Was because I asked somebody at the park if they believed in Bigfoot, and he said, yeah. I said, why do you believe in Bigfoot? He said, because I was at the Godell with somebody, and we were picking up deer dogs late in the evening, and he said they had something big, black, and hairy running across the spoil bank, running away from us. So that's three little weird things that happened. I said, was it Bigfoot? I said, I couldn't tell, but it was big and black and hairy.
Well, let me ask you something, especially being in Louisiana, because everybody's got a name for these things. I'm in Florida, we call it skunk ape, and then Northwest it's Sasquatch. Other places, there's a bunch of names. But you guys have the Rougarou.
Right.
Do you think the Rougarou is just another name for a Sasquatch? It's the same thing.
No.
Or is it different?
I used to think that, but I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm right, but think about it. I think of it this way. I always talk about that. Why the Rougarou? They say, well, the old people used to tell their kids that to keep them out of the woods. Well, why can't you just say a panther, a bear, alligator, or snakes? Why do you have to make up Rougarou? So I think the Rougarou is a legitimate thing. Maybe it could be a Bigfoot that's got deformities, but from the descriptions I got from an individual from here, it don't sound like a Bigfoot. I got him to describe it to me. Now, I was talking to him on the phone for about an hour and a half. He lives in Florida, and he started describing to me what happened. And he was frogging on the Godell, and the first time he seen it, he was coming back, and he seen the eyes about 4 foot off the ground or lower. So he said, in his mind, he's going, well, they got a panther out here. He could tell, I think he could tell it was black, but his thoughts was, it's a panther. And he told his daddy about it, and they thought the same thing. So he went again in the same area, and he was frogging again. And he said, you know, when I frog, I go down the bayou and I'm looking ahead, but I do something not everybody does. I'll flip my light around and I'll look behind me, because sometimes I'll catch an eye and I'll go back and get it. Well, he was driving down the Godell by Horseshoe Bayou, in the Godell side, not in the Horseshoe by itself. And he flipped it around. And then he gave me a description of what he'd seen. He said it was big, it was black. He said it was built like a 7-foot linebacker. He said he had his arm around the tree, his other one was hanging down, and he's describing this to me, and I'm sitting there thinking, Bigfoot, you know. You see a skinny waist, big old thighs about the size of my torso. And he said it's huge. He said scared the living daylight. So then he starts describing the head. He said, well, it had pointed ears. I said, what? He said, yeah, it had pointed ears. I said, really? He said, yeah, and he had a muzzle. I said, whoa, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Are you talking about Dogman? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, the Dogman. And he said it took off running in the swamp. Now, I think in French they call it Congon. They say he's Congon. He don't have no fear. He's got fear. He ain't going back in there. He told his daddy wanted to go put a camera in there. And he said, I ain't going. He said, you can go put your camera in, but I ain't going in there. He said, that place looks wicked. You don't want to go. You don't want no part of that. Maybe he got over it. I don't know, but he told me he didn't want to go in there no more.
Well, that kind of
15 foot from it.
Wow.
So you know he got a good description. And the way the position of this thing was, what it sounds like to me is it was behind the tree from the direction he was coming from, and it was hugging the tree, but that thing didn't expect him to flip the light back around and catch him. That's what I think happened.
Yeah. Because that kind of segues into the Landrys. You know, if anybody knows who the Landrys are, that's if you watch Swamp People, chewed them. You know,
Yeah.
you're related, right? Your wife's related.
My
right?
wife's kind of distant related to him, but that's Chase Landry. That's
Right.
Troy's son.
And is he the one that you were just talking about with the boat and everything?
Yeah.
So it was Chase Landry, which was, you know, one of the boys on the show, and so he had what he thinks is a dog man.
Right. And he did a lot of research because he came up, I think they call them the Ubis in Egypt. I think that's the name of them.
Right.
It's men's bodies and dog heads. And that's what he said it looked like, the head, like one of those Ubis, I think they call it.
Wow.
Some of the best pictures I've ever seen are of a dog man. And I never got into the topic. I prefer to stick to Sasquatch, but then again, when you're out in the woods, you don't necessarily get to pick what you run into.
Yeah.
But some of the best pictures I've ever seen, and they were pictures that were on a laptop that somebody took a picture of the picture on the laptop, and they were still really good. So, you know, till this day, that's the best ones I've seen. I don't see why they couldn't exist. If Sasquatch is a thing, then why, you know, it seems like once you throw a muzzle on it or a dog head on it, then all of a sudden people don't want to believe in it. It's like, well, what, you know, if one's real, why can't the other one be real?
Right. Yeah, the dog man is one of those ones that I kind of stay away from because I don't want it to be real.
Yeah.
That's me. I think I can
Yeah.
deal with a Bigfoot easier than I can a dog, man.
Yeah, I think I can deal with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, I think my mistake is what's that guy? He did the Steve Lilly series, and it was just a fantastic series. The guy that tells all the stories. He's got that real Southern accent, and he's in the videos. He's always on his bicycle with his dogs, but he's telling the stories and stuff like that, or reading emails.
You talking
Really,
about Dixie
yeah,
Cryptid? Is
yeah, Dixie Cryptid.
that it? Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he did a series called the Steve Lilly. Fantastic. It's all fictional. He wrote this story, and he broke it up into like 15 parts. Amazing. But he brings it all together: the Bigfoots, the Skinwalkers, the Dogman, all that, and great series to sit and listen to. It's very entertaining, but it made me walk away going, I hope none of that exists except for Sasquatch. None of it. You know what I mean? Because my days of camping are over.
Yeah.
Over. I'm taking up pinochle or shuffleboard or something.
Yeah, we haven't been camping in a while. We still haven't got enough nerve to do it again. But yeah, I don't
some of
want
the
dogs
best
to be a
experiences
real
are
thing.
when people camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the things that you described, the whole, I kind of went down the same path too. I didn't even know. We take for granted the things we know now, and they just seem so common, like wood knocks and throwing objects. But when I first started, I had no idea they did any of that. The first time I heard a wood knock, I couldn't understand for the life of me how in the world a human being made that sound, because it was like a baseball bat hitting a telephone pole, and it just blew my mind. But it's very interesting how you pick these things up. And I think I had heard in the past, maybe just some things I'd heard on TV and stuff, and then you start putting the picture together. It kind of sounds like what went on with you a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, going back to now, talking about West Virginia, I hunted up there 20 years. There's some things that happened that we couldn't explain. So I'll tell you a couple of them. I was hunting down in the bottom, like a box canyon. I had to walk in, climb down in there. And when I got to the bottom, they had a perfect doe laid up underneath the brush, but the brush was low enough that it didn't walk in there. To me, it got shoved in there. And I couldn't find, and I didn't flip the deer over to check, but I couldn't find any cause of death. And I'm going, man, that's strange. I think, why would it crawl up under that? How could it crawl up under there and die? But it looked like something put it up under there. So I just kind of wrote that off. Well, my friend told me he was hunting below me one time. It might have been during the same time he heard something scream down in there, and he found a tree stand that was, I guess, 12 to 20, somewhere in that range, foot in the air, was tore up and laying on the ground, and maybe part of it was still up there. That's why I knew how high it was up there. I didn't get into specifics, but he said it looked like something tore the stand up. So, you start putting things together. So me and my wife, and we're all up there by the goldfish pond. Remember the goldfish pond? So they had two guys. I think one was on a four wheeler and one was in a side by side. And I just felt like messing with it a little bit, because they had a sign up there, Bigfoot washer, and they called the pond like a Bigfoot wash tub, Bigfoot washer. And I said, y'all need to be careful up here. I said, they got some Bigfoot up here. Oh, y'all believe it? I don't believe in that. I said, yeah. I said, I'll give you an incident. Over there where I hunted down there below, I found a doe, and I couldn't figure out what killed it over there. It was in Spice Creek. Yeah. He said, well, we found a bear. I said, really? We couldn't figure out what killed it. I said, how you know? We figured it wasn't shot or shot with an arrow or a gun. I said, well, how you know? He said, we skinned it out. He said it was a fresh kill. And I didn't tell him about Spice Creek, about the doe. I said, well, where'd you see that at? He said, in Spice Creek. I said, by that beaver dam? He said, yeah, that's where we seen it. They got a little quiet and left.
Wow.
And he said it was a big bear. I said, "Cool." And things like that, you don't. And you start talking, you find, and you learn. Another thing I used to hear a lot when I was bow hunting was it was like something hitting two rocks together. But I always wrote that off as a squirrel breaking hickory nuts on a rock. But they don't do that, not that I know of. But that's the way I wrote it off. But they used to I think they used to do those rock clacks around us a lot. I've heard it in the night one time when we were coming back from my grandfather's old farm, and when we passed, it was weird. When we passed the gate, there's a metal gate, and you know how your tires on a gravel road will kick a rock out. Well, I was well past that gate, but a rock hit the gate, and my tire didn't pop either. You usually hear the tire do a little pop, and the rock flies out. And we were in there. My little nephew said, "Uncle John, I heard some rock clacks." I said, "Yeah." So it wasn't squirrels. But go ahead.
When you were talking about wood knocks earlier, the mass majority of all the wood knocks that I've heard have always been just one simple whack. In fact, when I started going to my sitting spot, that's what I do. I walk down there and I just do one wood knock. And then within, it may take between 10 to 30 minutes is usually when they show up, if they're going to be around. But I don't think I've ever heard more than one wood knock at a time. So that seems, I don't know where the fours came from, or the threes or whatever, but I've never heard them. I know other people have, but
well, it's kind of coincidental that when that thing threw a rock at me or over me, there was 4 and 4. So I consider that aggressive. And Patrick Vaughn said,
yeah,
you hit a tree that many times, you're beating a tree.
Yeah. But Patrick Vaughn said, "Don't do more than one," and it kind of made sense. There was 4 and 4, and it threw something at me. He said, "Don't ever do more than one," like you're saying.
Yeah, all the ones I've recorded has always just been one.
Yeah,
there was 4, and then 4, and then something thrown at me, or towards me, or over me, or whatever, trying to run me out the area. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. So where you live permanently in Louisiana now?
Yeah, I've been here the longest part of my life. I was born in West Virginia. We moved to California, and then moved to Louisiana. My parents retired, and they moved back to West Virginia.
Now, how old were you when you were in California?
I lived there from 4 years old to I think it was 13.
Now, growing up out there in California, did you hear a lot about Sasquatch?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah.
I lived in the city, South LA, in Garden Grove, California.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a lot of Bigfooters in LA.
No. We made a couple of camping trips in the mountains, but we never heard anything or seen anything. We were the wildest things in the woods back then.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
No. But there, Florida's a lot like Louisiana. Our swamps are a lot the same, and I think we have to deal with the same issues that you have to deal with snakes and gators and cougars, or Florida panthers and stuff like that, and bears. I think we deal with a lot of the same stuff. You know what I mean? Because anytime I see anything with Louisiana, it reminds me of some of the areas that we go into and stuff like that. So
yeah, I see pretty much the same type of trees y'all have as us in the palmettos. Looks like y'all palmettos are a little bigger.
Well, we have different breeds. Some are short, some are extremely tall, and they're not the same species. They're different, but they are all palmettos. They're just different breeds of palmetto. But you guys have the cypress knees and stuff like that in the swamp, like we do, and stuff like that. So You know, I try not to on the low season, when our dry season, I'll go in those areas. And it just blows my mind every time I go in there is because you know what I'm talking about. It leaves a water line. There's
Yeah.
always a water line on a cypress.
Yeah.
And I've gone in areas I'm standing on dry land, and that water line is still 2 feet above me. And I'm like, wow. And I look to my left, and I'm probably 30 yards from the nearest creek bed, and 30 yards from it, and probably 20 feet elevation above it. So I can just imagine on the wet season how much water is going through this cypress swamp to go uphill and still rise above my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, that's the way our spillway is, the Chapalaya. Speaking of that, I got some stories of stuff that happened out there if you all want to hear them.
Yeah,
Go
throw
for
some at us.
Okay, they have this is back in the 60s. And I don't think I was around then. I might have been. But they have an old guy. There was 3 guys in a boat, and they call it Fisher Bayou. And they were, I don't know if y'all got those mayflies on the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, they would put their lights out and bring the mayflies in and drift, and the catfish would come up and eat the mayflies. They'd scoop up the catfish, and they were doing that. And he said he looked on the left side, and there was some small willow trees about 6 foot tall. This is an old man telling me, he's in his 80s right now. And he said something stood up, and he said it was above the 6 foot mark. You could see the shoulders and like chest high. He said it dove in the bayou, in Fisher Bayou, swam underwater, and it popped up like 15 feet from them. And they were looking they locked our eyeballs. And then this thing swam off across the bayou and hit the bank, got up and took off running. Now, there was one guy sleeping in the bottom of the boat, and I think the other guy that was with him seen it. The 2 of them had seen it. And he said, he said, I couldn't shoot it. I said, what do you mean? He said, that thing looked human. I said, really? He said, it had long hair. So I had a game picture camera of a Bigfoot at the goldfish pond, and he gave the description. Well, I had taken that picture to make it easier to see it for some people because some people had a hard time seeing it. And I drew it out, and I showed it to him. He said, that's it. He said, it had reddish hair. And I said, well, yeah, it was a pencil drawing. I said, well, this one had reddish hair too. It looks kind of reddish to me. And he freaked out. And that was in West Virginia that the game camera took a picture, and I brought it and showed it to him. And he said, that looks exactly like the one I seen. And it doesn't look primate. It looks human. And that was really strange. So then there's another group of 4 not far from that area that were going duck hunting. So they went out there. I think they were going teal season, the first part of the season, and I think it's around the same time frame. Well, they had an old camp out there when they got to the place where they wanted to duck hunt. So they were looking at it, and they said, well, we'll just camp right here. For some reason, the camp was kind of tore up. The windows were busted out. The back door was gone. They decided to pitch the tent in the camp and stay in the camp, all 4 of them. He said they went in there and they pitched their tent. And they got ready, got to bed. I think they ate and did all their business. And said, man, all of them, they all felt really, really, really uncomfortable, really strange. It was so bad that way they felt that 2 of them decided they weren't going back, and they didn't go back the next weekend. Now, I think they were possibly hearing some things going on too. Couldn't figure it out, but they got nervous. So 2 of the ones decided to go back. So they went back, I think, the next weekend or another day during the week. And it was raining, so they decided, well, we'll go into camp. We said, no, wait a minute. They said, let's go. Well, one of the bedrooms, they had the glass was broken out, so they took a piece of flooring and stuck it in the bed and decided just to throw the cots in that bedroom and go to sleep. But the back door, he said, was a big, heavy door. He said it was laying in the hallway. So they picked up the door. It took both of them to pick up that door, and they took it and leaned it out like it's going to fall out, but it didn't fall through. But just to put something there to keep anything from coming in. So I don't remember exactly what time, but he said it was late. Something took the door and like hit it and knocked it all the way in, and it took two of them to pick it up. Now this camp is about 4 foot off the ground, so this thing had to be pretty tall to reach up there at the top of that doorway and hit that door and knock it in. So
Well, that's some strength too.
So they both loaded the shotgun. He said, and I don't know how accurate. I'm just requoting this. He said, if you come, we don't know who you are, but if you come in here, we're gonna shoot you. So he said they never had anything going on. He said they kind of had the first time. I think they heard growling. This time they didn't hear growling, and they felt safe. And I think they went out the other door on the front of the camp, and they looked around and couldn't see nothing. But he said, and I think I told you about the foot stomp by the arch up in West Virginia. Well, I kind of told him about that on my front porch, and he said that's got to be what it was. He said they felt like when he was out of the camp, something took a big giant piece of concrete and slammed it on the ground. And he said he thought the place was haunted. Now this is why he thought it was haunted, because the person that owned that camp, they found dead in there with a heart attack.
Wow. Man.
Now I've hunted in not far from that camp where that campus was, and I was in a cypress tree, and this is before I knew anything about anything. And after stuff happened, I started thinking back. I was about 12, 15 feet up in that cypress tree, and something vibrated at that cypress tree. I don't know what it was. I said maybe he was over there by me, but I never had that happen to me in hunting in the swamp. Something just vibrated. I thought they were blasting or something around there, but there was no activity.
Wow.
I don't think they used to blast. Well, back then, I don't think they got finished blasting with dynamite. They were using, I think, some kind of device that would vibrate the ground for seismic measurement.
Right.
I just, it's funny you bring that up. I just reposted one of the first piece of evidence that I've ever recorded. And I recorded a growl. Basically, it was a growl first. And my dog was barking back at it. And it actually does another couple vocalizations. It goes like, whoa. But right when it does that, whoa, right after that, it stomps the ground is exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like something very, very, very heavy hitting the ground. So that's pretty neat.
Oh yeah.
That's a little aggressive.
Yeah, that's definitely, that's one of those.
It had to be a mama.
Yeah, there hasn't been a ton of times where I felt like they were being overly aggressive, but that night with the growl and that foot stomp, there's just really no way to interpret a foot stomp like that. As in, it definitely to me that means go away. 100%. But I couldn't imagine laying there and having that door like that be shoved back into the house. That'd be it for me, man.
Yeah.
That would be it. With all that and some growling, and then a big heavy door like that being shoved through. I don't know. I'm a brave individual, but there's just some things where you're outmatched.
No. Yep. So we had another incident with my wife, my sister, her daughter, and it was just us four.
Grayson.
Yeah, Grayson was with us then. Anyways, we were up at the goldfish pond with
Hey, if she wants to participate, she can pull up a chair right beside you now.
I got this.
Same thing my wife does.
We don't discriminate. She can jump in there.
She'll tell you hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm shy, so.
Nice, nice to meet you.
Yeah, she was in the boat when it bipedal wet walk by the Godell. But anyways, we were in West Virginia, and it was late, and it was right at dark, and we were all together. We found an imprint, but I couldn't say for sure it was a footprint. But I told her, I said, well, look up this way about 6 foot. They got a 6 foot stride to see if there's something. That was another, impression, but it didn't look exactly. It didn't look like a Bigfoot. But while we were there, talking, I think we started hearing whistles. I'm going. I asked them. I said, y'all whistling? And my wife said, no, we're not whistling. I said, Margo, you whistling? She said, no, I'm not whistling. Emily, no. I said, well, I had the foot stomp. I said, well, it's time for us to go. So we had all that whistling going on, and then we had a strong smell. So we loaded up in the car, and we go back down the mountain to my mom's house, and we were in 2 vehicles. So I parked off to the side of the road, and my sister pulled up in the driveway, and my wife, she had already got out and went in the house, and her daughter went. My sister was still in the car, and I would think I was still getting out. I hear something that sounded like a rifle shot. I asked my sister, did you hear that? She said, it sounded like somebody threw a rock on the roof. I said, really? So I went back to my truck to get a light. I was going to shine it up on the mountain and see if I can spot something. Well, when we first got there, you know how dogs are. When there's something that's not natural around, they'll start barking. So we all got out of the car, slammed doors in, and there was no peep. They had a whistle, and then the dog started cutting up. And then I heard a tree break, and that's what I thought might have been the rifle shot. And it was right above my mom's. They followed us down off the mountain. And that's a good 20-minute drive off the mountain. I mean, you're not going fast, and you're going through switchbacks and stuff, but I found that was real strange. I'm pretty sure they came down. I don't think it's the first time they followed us down. And my mom, every once in a while, she'll tell me, I say, anything slap the house? And every once in a while, I say, well, something hit the house. And it seemed like it's always around the same time.
Now, same time of the year or same time of the evening?
Same time.
We're talking about
night. It's early morning, like around 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Are they still live out there?
Yeah. My daddy passed away, and it's just my mom, and my sister lives not far from me, maybe a quarter mile.
Oh, well, it sounds like we need to take a trip to this mountain. That's exactly what it sounds like.
I got a log cabin. You can sleep 20 people in it. You can rent it, and they got a kitchen, and they got 2 bathrooms, and they're finishing up probably a bathhouse, and it's not real expensive to rent, but you can throw cots in there, and you can go all over the mountains on 4-wheelers. They got what they call is the Hatfield-McCoy Trail. You can get a tag, and that's like 180 miles of 4-wheeler trails or side-by-side trails all over the mountains. But when they get it all together, I might try and make a trip and stay up there a few nights and then see what I can find.
No, yeah, that sounds like a fun place even without Bigfoot.
Well, what I found up there is like towards the end of the winter, there's nothing going on.
Right.
The early spring and up till winter in the fall, there's a lot of activity. Every time I go up there, I'm hearing something suspicious. We made another trip up there one time, and they got some graveyards, old family graveyards from like Civil War time. And we were walking over there, putting out audio equipment. And when we were coming back out, well, we set it up. We went to the camp. We went to the goldfish pond, and we had built a fire, and we went back. And when we were coming out, I was hearing heavy breathing. And so when I was walking and with my headlight looking straight ahead. My buddy was in front of me, and out on my right peripheral, I see eye shine. I'm going, what? And I turn and I seen it, but the eye shine was occurring without me pointing my headlight at it. I've never seen that before. And the only thing I can think of is maybe the eyes were reflecting off of the fire that we had built. Because you could hear my wife and them talking, but the heavy breathing part was kind of freaky. And then I heard stuff like up on my left, up on the mountain. It was kind of like monkey shine, like ooh. And I never heard that before. And that's where I got pictures of 3 or 4 of them in my game camera in that area around the goldfish pond. And that same time, Charlie Schwartz was up there when I told you the guy that dragged across the fan and hit the antenna. The same night, there was a guy and his girlfriend in a tent on top of that, above the pond, and he got so scared he shot out. He shot off into the woods with his pistol, but something kept circling his tent. And he got scared and fired some rounds off.
Man.
But that eye shine is kind of like gold to me. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not used to seeing that in the woods. I don't know what a mountain lion eye shine color is, but that was reflecting, and my headlight wasn't in its face.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be a pretty common color when it comes to people reporting the eye shine.
Yeah, because you'll hear people say red, but I think the most common is that yellow amber kind of coloring.
I guess the first time I seen that eye shine, it was so vivid, it freaked me out. I'm not used to seeing eye shine like that. It was almost like I could almost see the iris.
Well, it's really cool. We had Todd Neese on a while back, and he went into detail on the eye shine, and it really opened my eyes on how it could possibly work and why people say there was no lights, but yet we could see the eye shine, but there was no lights, there was no fire, no whatever, and he really kind of goes into it on how it's possible to have eye shine without any ambient light, so it's definitely an interesting aspect of a Bigfoot, definitely.
Now, on my hunting lease, I had a couple of things. And I'm not saying they're Bigfoot, but it's just a lot of. This is back in Louisiana on my hunting lease. My wife just reminded me to make sure I differentiate between West Virginia and Louisiana so people don't get confused. But last hunting season, I put up a lock-on stand about 12 foot off the ground, and I heard some tree. I thought I heard a tree knock. It sounded like a tree knock to me. Out there, when you hear an acorn hit a palmetto, you got to be real careful because you might think that's a tree knock, but
Right.
there is a difference. And I thought for sure I heard one. Well, when I came out, when I traveled through the woods and I came out on this road and it goes by the elbow, when I got to the elbow, now it's dark. I stopped for some reason. I think I was looking at a deer or a rabbit. I smelled bad human body over it. So, okay, putting 2 to 2 together, I guess, okay, it's a possibility. So this year, I said, it was towards the end of the season. I said, well, I had that put up that lock-on stand. I said, well, I'm going to go sit in it my last hunt. So I went in there and climbed up in there, but on the way in, I had some doe urine, and I was spraying it on all the palmettos along the trail as I go back there, and it's like maybe close to a mile or 3/4 of a mile back there. And I climbed up in my tree stand, so I'm sitting there, and I do a buck imitation with my mouth. I don't even use a grunt call. So I hear something like way off in the distance, like where I came from. It sounded like buck grunts, kind of. I said, oh. So I took my gun, I stuck it down in my lap in that direction from where that grunt's coming from. And then it looked like it, I was getting excited. I figured he's gonna come out here anytime, and then it stopped. So I did my little grunt call, which is, and it replied. I said, ooh. Okay, so I didn't do nothing right away, and nothing happened. So I tried again, and it replied, and then it didn't do it. It just shut up, and I couldn't get it to do it anymore. So off to my right, I hear two. Now the wind's blowing, and we've got a lot of rotten trees. So I hear two trees fall, like crush, crush. Okay, well, that could be the wind. I didn't think nothing. Then I start hearing branches break. And I'm not talking about twigs. I'm talking about branches break, similar to the branches we heard break back in Louisiana when me and my wife heard the growls. They were popping and like that. So, okay, maybe somebody, I can hear some voices way off. The wind's blowing that direction. From that direction, they have a camp back there. So maybe they're clearing the camp. Oh, so, okay. Well, then I hear something grunt more powerful than a deer can, with a high-pitched scream between the tongue flex. I'm going, what? I've never heard nothing like this in my life. I started getting scared now. So it was getting dark. I said, well, it's time to go. So I got out of there. So I got those guys' phone number that was in that other camp. So I said, well, y'all clearing the lot? No, we were cleaning the deer. We weren't clearing no trees or nothing. But it sounded like somebody was clearing the woods. So you can think what you want, but I found that was very unusual, especially that spooky sound. I'm not used to hearing a buck grunt that powerful and with a high-pitched squeal in there with it.
Yeah.
But that's something that happened here recently, this hunting season, and this past, I guess, January last year.
Sure does create a rabbit hole, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
after I had my initial encounter, I questioned everything in the past. Everything. I would lay in bed and think about all the times I was in the wood deer hunting and the things I heard or thought I heard, or I just questioned everything after that, because who knows?
Well, that's what you learn to do as you research, and you got to say, okay, now what was that? The first thing that came to my mind when it threw something at me back in 2016 is, what can throw a rock? Wait a minute, you got to have these. I said, okay, now what, I got a gorilla up there or what? Or somebody waiting for somebody to pass? And I don't think anybody's going to climb up the side of the mountain and wait for somebody to pass to throw something at them and beat on a tree.
Was I the only one that just saw that?
No, I saw that too. I don't know what you did, Richard, but
I didn't do anything.
Squirrel?
Yeah.
Talking about a little swirl?
It looked like you had fireworks going off behind you and your face turned into a skull.
Oh, we must be hacked.
I don't know what that was, but it was I saw the same thing too. It looked like a green screen behind you. And then there was fireworks.
It's like everything, you were there, everything behind you was black. Then it was fireworks, and then your face faded into a skull.
All right, when we get done, we'll go back to, it was at one.
You got to record
1 hour. Oh yeah, at 1 hour and 23 minutes. Go back and look, and you'll see it's just like it's got to be an effect inside the actual platform, that maybe some kind of glitch or something.
I'm not touching it. My hand
that
was resting on the
funny.
table beside me, and I'm just
it's like your kitchen disappeared.
Oh.
Like there was a green screen behind you, and then there was fireworks that popped up behind you.
Did anybody in the chat room see what we just saw? Anybody? Somebody else say they saw it, because
that was super weird.
That was the strangest thing. Anybody in the chat room, y'all saw what we saw?
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Oh well, Richard's buffering.
Yeah, there was times there where
Did you
John
see Richard
was buffering a little bit.
Yeah, you're not buffering like you were when we first got on.
Right. Did you see Richard?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You guys are great on my side. Y'all sound.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on now.
So, But that was
Well,
weird.
y'all
But
continue to talk. Don't waste any time on me.
Yeah, I pretty much talked about everything that went on.
well, that was some really really interesting stuff. People in the chat room are saying they didn't see anything, but
Yeah.
Really? Oh, I
well,
definitely saw it. That was
so
strange.
I'm gonna go back as soon as this show is over. I'm going back and I'm looking.
1 hour and
You know,
23 minutes.
yeah, I'm gonna start at 122 and just start watching from there. You got to check it out, John, because it was weird. It was
Yeah.
weird. You know what I mean? And we were talking. Maybe it was one of those three-letter agencies telling us, "Hey, y'all talking too much." I don't know,
Yeah.
but that was crazy.
I doubt they're watching our podcast. They probably, I guarantee that's one of the things that makes this doing research like this so frustrating is I guarantee our government knows everything there is to know about these things. I bet there's groups of guys that have been trained that can go out in an area and within a matter of minutes just find these things. And it's so annoying to know that, to know that they probably know everything and we're just fighting for, scraps. But
Yeah.
it's still fun though. I love it. And it's a good thing. So your wife is she pretty much all in on going out with you, or what does she think about the whole thing?
Oh, she likes it more, just as much, if not more, than me.
Well, that's definitely a good thing to have. It took me years to get my wife to the point where she'd even really talk about it.
Well, she
So,
kind of bought in it reluctantly at first, but then when some of the things started happening, she
hmm
was she was totally into it.
yeah,
In fact, she's the one that found the asterisk. I don't know if I told y'all about that on the property, which was, and I think Richard called it like a dream catcher, but I call them asterisks because they look like asterisks. And
that's the
she,
same thing I call them as asterisks.
okay, cool.
Well, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, what I've seen the Asterix one, but like I said, the one I filmed looked like a dream catcher. It had
Yeah.
a
Oh,
full
okay.
circle and the spider web of everything kind of wound together in the center. It looked like to me it looked like and it was probably a good 4 foot across. It was very large, and
Well,
but
this
it
this
didn't.
one's about that size. Now she sent that to Chris Reinhardt, and I can't find the other four pictures, but he sent her back four that look just like it from Ohio.
We're getting a
Somebody,
lot of feedback in the chat room. They all said they saw it also, and Dirt Road said he went back and said, "Yep, it's there."
oh, it is.
It's
Well, I'm
there.
about to
So
go back and
yeah,
look.
you got to go. That was the weirdest. I thought you did it, John, because it was
No,
only your screen that did it. You know what I
oh,
mean?
yeah,
And that was weird.
it
That's
just there's probably something on inside a StreamYard where you can do that for people or whatever, and it probably
I
just
don't
went
know.
off.
oh, okay,
But anyway, but yeah,
That's
we
weird.
found I was always uh, I'm always extremely careful about the whole structures thing because there's just unless the reality is unless you see something make it, you
right.
don't know if it was made or not. But the asterisk thing is one of those that we found at our main research area, and the one we found, it was on the same day we had our sightings. It was probably about 50 yards away from where we just found handprints in the mud down at the creek. And then there was a 10-point deer skull right underneath the asterisk.
Oh,
So it was, yeah. So it was, and it was like it was weaved at certain points or whatever. So to me, the ones that look like asterisks are way more convincing than pretty much anything else I've seen out there.
now the one that she had found is gone, but I can't find the original structure parts around there. It's like
Really?
somebody carried it off, the parts, the vines and stuff.
I ran into the weirdest thing just recently when I went out, and I'm currently going back trying to find the original footage because I was right on top of it in original footage, and this footage I just did recently, I'm right on top of. I mean, standing in the exact spot, so the video should compare really close. But there was this area where we have these. I think it's some kind of berry, but it's a very thin vine that only grows about less than a foot high. It's a vine, and it'll tear you up. It's got tiny pricklers on it. It just tear you up. You got to wear, even if you're wearing long pants, it's going to tear you up. So I wear my snake guards when I go in there. But there's this arch, and there was a big palmetto, under the arch, and there was this arch with a log laid down holding the top of the tree down. I documented it, looked at it, and said, "Wow, this is pretty impressive because it's definitely being held down by something." And it was the tree that was holding it down was at least 20 feet long. Okay, and so I come back just recently. Now it was a year ago probably, and I come back, and the arch has always been there. Every time I went by, I'd look over there, and there's the arch. There's the arch. Well, I go back this time. It not only is the arch gone, but the tree laying down is gone, and nothing. And the palmetto is gone, and that's an impossible feat to pull up a palmetto. It's gone, but that vine, that grassy vine that'll tear you up, not disturbed. It's not like something drove in there, ripped this stuff, and drove out, or anything. It's not disturbed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. It didn't dawn on me until, because I made comments on it in the video that, the arch is gone and blah, blah, blah. And it didn't dawn on me until later when I'm getting back to the truck that the palmetto was gone. I went back and watched the video. The palmetto's gone. The tree's gone. Everything is gone like it never existed. But there's no disturbance at all. Nothing.
Well, cool stuff.
That big arch and the 2 X's in West Virginia. My friend went over there and took pictures of them, and now they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
The tree that was laid across that arch, like you say, on the end, to hold it down, was moved, and the arch sprang up a bit, and the 2 X's disappeared. And the only thing he figures, they might have been watching him take the pictures, or he's standing around him, and they say, we need to get rid of it, or whatever. But both X's and the arch is gone. What's the chance of that? That's 3 things.
Yeah. I mean, I give Mother Nature a lot of credit. She does some crazy stuff sometimes. But sometimes if it's something that just really sticks out and you're looking at it like there's just no logical explanation at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes to structures, there's some that I disregard right off the bat. I'm not a big – I've documented some X's, but, my mentality is, any 2 sticks that fall form a T, an L, or an X. See what I'm saying? So, But if it's an X and it's like, for example, 2 pine trees in an oak forest, you know what I mean? Well, that sticks out that this isn't normal. See what I'm saying? That's when I take notice and say, okay, there's something special about this X,
Cool. Is that about it, John?
Yeah, I think I can't think of anything else. I'm sure something will come up. But
Hey, John, do you know Blue-Eyed Northern?
yeah.
Okay, because he's in the chat room and he says he's in North Central Louisiana. So I figured, maybe y'all ran into each other or had discussion or something. He's in there. That's cool.
My wife had talked with her and messaged with her.
Okay.
Well,
that
good
was
to go.
interesting, man. That was good.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind making a trip up there to Crustacea one day and go camping again, but I don't think I can convince my wife to. And she didn't hear all the stuff I heard.
Yeah, you talking about where the branch went over the top of your head?
Yeah, or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's a little too close for comfort. Right over the head like that. That's a little much. It's probably a very good decision to not tell her that while you're still laying there in the tent in the dark. That's a good call. I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah, I don't like to listen to screaming.
Yeah. Well, John, go ahead, Richard.
Well, I'm going out tomorrow, I'm leaving here probably around 5:30 in the morning, and meeting up with Marie Demont and her crew and stuff. And hopefully we find some stuff and see some interesting things and stuff like that. It's shows like this that get me pumped. It's
Yeah.
like, it's like golf. I mean, I sucked at golf, but every once in a while you hit that one good shot, and you're back there playing again next week. So
Yeah.
that's how it is. You get a dry spell for a while, then all of a sudden you get something really good, and you're like, yep, I'm going back out this weekend. So, so I'm looking forward to it. This is my first complete full weekend off since December.
Oh, that's
so.
good. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Be safe.
So
Definitely. Well, we appreciate you getting on with us, John.
Yeah, well, thanks for inviting me on your podcast. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, anytime.
So I'm
Well-
gonna try and do some more research this year. If anything comes up, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let us know. We'll have you back on.
yeah, absolutely, man.
Maybe by then you can convince your wife to come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you come up with anything new that happens or anything like that, and you want to share it, you got my phone number, man. Just call me and say, hey, Rick, I won't be on your show. I got something new. And I say, all right, let's do it. You know what I mean? We'll get you on there and talk about whatever and tell us what's happening and stuff like that. It's always nice to have a contact in another state that can keep us informed. Johnny's got Georgia, I got Florida, and you got Louisiana, and we've got dirt road up in Indiana. We're kind of spreading out. So
Yeah.
anybody's got something that wants to jump on and talk about it, man, we're more than happy to hear it.
Well, I actually got two places, West Virginia and Louisiana.
That's right.
No, yeah, he's got two.
Yeah.
Well, good to go. Well, Richard, I'm glad. Hope you have fun this weekend.
Yeah, I hope it's successful. I hope we have a good time. But anytime I'm out there with like-minded people, because it's going to be a pretty big group, and it's nice being with other researchers and talk shop, and just share info. It's always a good time. Like I said, I'm just spending the day. They're all camping out there for the weekend. I'm just going up for the day and spending some time out there instead of being in the woods by myself. So.
All right. Well, tell Marie I said hello.
Yeah.
Oh, I will. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to thank all the people in the chat room. You guys are awesome tonight, man. A great discussion. You guys are just amazing. I want to thank our subscribers. If it wasn't for you guys, we'd still do it.
Yeah, we'd still do it.
We'd still do it.
We'd just be talking to each other.
If we even if we don't have a guest, me and Johnny coming on, we're gonna talk.
Yeah.
But it's all fun. We love it, and the podcast is doing great. I want to absolutely encourage everybody to check out Johnny's Sasquatch Encounter Brigade and see what he's doing on there. He does have a really good, successful channel. Come check out Bigfoot Florida Guy and check out what I'm doing on there. And always check out the podcast. So I want to thank everybody and wish you well and God bless. And thank you, John, for being here. Thanks for being there for me, Johnny. Johnny's, he's my yin to my yang.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, fellas. And y'all have a good evening.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
God bless.
God bless.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.